Now, this next story did kind of raise my eyebrow a little bit, but there is also sort of a twist to it, and you're going to see. But first up, the main headline here: ex-GOP mega donor is now backing Democrats ahead of midterms. So Seth Klarman, a hedge fund manager, donated more than 2.9 million to Republicans in the 2016 election cycle. But for 2018, he has shifted gears, donating hundreds of thousands of dollars to more than 80 Democratic candidates running in midterms. Now, a story like this normally would bother me because I mean, more money is not the answer here, especially from billionaires or corporations giving more money to candidates. Because ultimately, what it normally shows is that you give more money and they listen to you. So a billionaire giving a shit ton of money to the Democratic Party now has the ear of the Democratic Party and more of an influence on policy, much like as well a corporation does. So that is usually my worry here. But in this case, I did a little digging, and a lot of the money that Klarman is giving is just the maximum individual amount of $2,700 apiece. So he's given the maximum amount to people like Beto O'Rourke, Sherrod Brown, so Democrats who are at least a little more on the progressive side, and but then also has given money to Joe Manchin, Claire McCaskill, and Heidi Heitkamp, who are more on the conservative side of the spectrum. So there doesn't appear to be any agenda here. It's more that he just wants Democrats to win. And the single biggest donation that he gave was $36,000 to a PAC that's supporting Joe Kennedy. Now, that I you could maybe say that's a little bit of a problem. So Joe Kennedy is this guy who a lot of mainstream a lot of mainstream pundits love Joe Kennedy because he's this young guy, he's a Kennedy, and they think he's the future of the Democratic Party. But he's just a corporate Democrat, and he's very standard. He's not even really that good at speaking. So there really shouldn't be any excitement around Joe Kennedy. He is not the future of the party. The future of the party is more like somebody like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. But Joe Kennedy is just a standard corporate Democrat. But again, I'm still not too bothered by $36,000 because whatever. But the real issue here, though, are people like Michael Bloomberg, who has promised $80 million to the Democratic Party. Now, this is a guy who does have an agenda, a radical centrism agenda. So here's somebody who wants the Democratic Party to stay neoliberal and is clearly working against the best interests of progressives. And this takes me to a related story here, which is there is sort of this new war within the Democratic Party. So what we thought the war was going to be, and still sort of is corporate Democrats versus progressives. But now what's happening are these never Trump Republicans coming over, like this Klarman here, Seth Klarman, and many other billionaires coming over to the Democratic Party that now used to be conservative, used to be Republican, but because they feel like they are center right, they feel like the Democratic Party or the GOP is not the party that it used to be, and they are now giving to Democrats. So what this battle has actually turned into now is never Trump Republicans plus corporate Democrats versus progressives. So essentially, the battle has been given more money on one side. So progressives are already fighting back against money. That is already an uphill battle that is hard to win because without money, it's hard to get your name out there. And now we have to not only compete with existing corporate Democrats, but also with never Trump Republicans that used to be Republican, but are now feeling like the Democratic Party is more of a voice for them. So this is the new battle. And it's one that I think progressives will still win, but it does make the battle harder when you have people who used to be Republicans now giving to Democratic candidates that would give never Trump Republicans are not going to give money to someone like Ocasio-Cortez. And Ocasio-Cortez also doesn't want their money. So it's a lose-lose. But they will give to people like a Joe Kennedy or like a Joe Manchin, people who are corporate Dems through and through and will toe the line. And that is a problem for progressives that are trying to break through. Now, let me get to the sort of twist here. Maybe you won't think it's a twist, but I think it's kind of interesting at least. So this is a quote from Seth Klarman, the donor here. I'm investing in fighting the current administration and to elect Democrats to the Senate and House of Representatives. While I have long supported overturning Citizens United and getting the money out of politics, I'm not going to sit idly by at this critical moment. So this big donor, who used to be a Republican, wants to get money out of politics. Now, this part kind of surprised me. This quote kind of surprised me. But when you think about it, it shouldn't be all that surprising. Getting money out of politics is an issue that unites all sides. The vast majority of voters, people that are not billionaires, that do not own corporations, want to get money out of politics because they clearly influence elections in a way that ignores the rest of the country. So this mega donor here, even though he is in one way benefiting from the current system, he's at least in what he's saying, he's aware that money in politics is an issue. Now, does he actually really care about the issue? I don't know. But I do find it odd that he would mention it if he didn't. So, I don't know. I think it's something. And it's, again, while I'm not too bothered by who he's giving money to because they're all just individual, or the vast majority of them are individual contributions of $2,700. The real issue here, and with this whole story, is this focus from the news, from the media, on donations, on money. So it's one thing to talk about who is getting how much money. Like, that definitely is a story that I think should have some coverage. But you also have to balance it out with the other side. Volunteers, grassroots support, small donations. So who's getting that sort of support? So when the media focuses so much on who's getting the most money, it then incentivizes other candidates to then try and chase the money because then they will get these sorts of headlines. But when you have another side there where someone like Ocasio-Cortez ran on no corporate PAC money, ran with volunteers, a strong grassroots support, and small individual donations, and won that way, even though she was outspent 10-1 by Joe Crowley, that is a real story. And that should be covered not just when you win with that, but before you win with that. So if somebody has a lot of grassroots support, that should be headline news. It shouldn't just be about who are these mega donors now giving to. There should also be equal stories on where are the volunteers, who's phone banking, or who gets the most phone banking, who has the most grassroots support, who has the most small individual donations. So ultimately, that is my issue with this entire story, is just this hyper focus by the media on the money while ignoring grassroots support.